What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I'm actually looking more forward than I thought to basketball season as it approaches. Technically, we are in the same day of the first NBA game, and if you're in the Eastern time zone at least. And I like them both. I'm going to go in. It's not that I like the matchups. I think they're going to be interesting. The picks, obviously, first game of the season is not going to be. We're not going to have a crazy read. But I wanted to go into, especially this rivalry here is going to be a big one. But yeah, so tonight we had a decent week. Again, 10-4. I'll take that any week. And we missed tonight, so that dropped us to 10-4. My gut was telling me the money was all on San Francisco. I just thought it was really odd that on TV they're going to use the logic for a guy who's 0-8 on his picks to get his only win. Nick Wright, he does, each week he does Nick's picks. He's been missing every week. And the only one he got right is like, yeah, I'm taking the Vikings because it's a trap, and there's 94% of the handle on the Niners. So that was pretty blatant. Another good thing we could take from that is, I do believe, as Nick Wright goes into, he believes in the basketball gods. I believe in the gambling gods, I do. I think that there's a lot of interesting give and take. And this year on the Niners, we literally are 0-7. We haven't picked a correct spread. But my preseason pick was the Niners to win the Super Bowl, and that stands. So I think we're a little bit of take for now from the gambling gods, but as the season goes on and they win the Super Bowl, that'll be the give portion. And this is a perfect way to get people off the Niners. Now people are thinking Purdy's not the guy. They're thinking that if anyone gets hurt, they're screwed, and they're probably not. That 2-1 to win the NFC championship is not looking too appealing, I don't think. So that's going to be the narrative, I think, that, can Purdy be the guy? Can he lead a team back to victory? He's 0-2 trying so far, so I think that's going to be the narrative for sure. Now, speaking of narratives, we have two games, obviously. We have the Nuggets playing the Lakers, and we have the Warriors playing the Suns. Now, for both of them, I'm just going to stick with all reliable. And to me, all reliable is just what typically works in the past. So, especially because we're using my system, the first game is going to be the Lakers Nuggets. They play first, and I do like the Nuggets for the cover. Right now they're giving 5. But the reason I like them is I do think that they're going to have a much stronger Lakers team this year. They're building. I went into my playoff preview videos. I went into why the Lakers, even though I completely did not have them winning anything until Bronny debuted, I thought Bronny and Braun would win the last one LeBron got together. The Lakers are just making championship team moves. They're bringing in the role players. They're doing everything that a team that typically wins a championship does. The other team doing that's Boston. So I found that interesting. But week 1, game 1, you still have the reigning defending champions, and they're at home where they're pushed to be remarkably good. And because people always like to bet the Lakers, I could see more people on the Lakers, or at least for a 5-point spread, a good enough people to be on the Lakers. Both of these games are probably going to be 50-50. But, again, we're just starting the season, so nothing crazy to it. No crazy injuries that I saw. I just think with the raising of the banner, Nuggets, the altitude, they like to push all that. I do think the Nuggets are going to win, and I'm going to take them to cover the 5 points. It'll probably still be a very entertaining game for the most part, but it could be a revenge game. But they play a couple times. They play in LA too, so yeah, I like Nuggets for the covering, laying the 5 points. I think they continue making them look like the team to beat in the West, because I don't think they're going back. So the only other thing you can do is make them just look like a team that, they're definitely going to be back in the conference championship, and they might be back in the conference championship. I just personally don't have them going back. But for the season opener, they're at home. I like them to cover. Now, the reason and this is why I love the NBA doubleheaders, that's going to be a leg 1, and the reason for that is because leg 2, if we lose, so if the Lakers do cover the 5 points, then leg 2 is going to be on the Warriors here at home. And again, it's pretty simple logic. I don't think both home teams are going to get covered or lose. They could, of course, but a lot of times they like to split things up and make things a little even. And speaking of split things up, San Francisco just lost, so Golden State, obviously the Bay team. I could definitely see them winning on the basketball side. And Clay Matthews was actually Clay Thompson was actually at the game. Not at the game. He was with Eli and Peyton, and he was all smiles. So no Draymond Green, and you have a Suns team with no injuries. To me, this game, more so than the first one, is going to be a story of, obviously, the rivalry, right? We have the rivalry that they were building last year. Is the reason that I have them meeting up in the playoffs this year. And now you got Chris Paul on the Warriors. So, to me, that makes it a very interesting game. But with Chris Paul and the Warriors, he'll fall right into place. I do think they're going to show a couple. I thought they might have the Suns just come out and look unstoppable. But I'm actually thinking that might be reserved for the Bucks. I think the Suns are going to come out and have a couple exploitations where people say, okay, they're unstoppable, but whether it's on defense, whether it's depth, whatever the case may be, and it'll probably be a very close game. Vegas has it as dead even odds. So I would think that even in Golden State, again, they like to push the home team narrative. That's why this will be a leg 2 if we don't get the Nuggets cover. If we do get the Nuggets cover, this will just be a leg 1. Okay, this is how I covered it last year, so I'm not going to change much. We did really well. So it's just a good way to, in my opinion, take advantage of the doubleheader. All we need to do is hit one of these, and it's a unit profited. But the first game is the Lakers, so I'm taking both home teams for the cover. Like I said, the Warriors, if it's fluctuating between even and -1, so it's basically going to be a pick'em game, and that's going to be our leg 2. The Warriors, if the Nuggets don't win, and if the Nuggets don't cover. Now, there's an interesting thing I wanted to go into before I just go on a little more deeper into the narratives with these teams. Just in case you're picking World Series, I really thought we were going to get the Phillies back there because I thought it was an interesting story. But then I noticed Arizona was where the Super Bowl was, and the Eagles just played in the Super Bowl. And now the World Series, the Diamondbacks are playing the Phillies, and this upcoming Super Bowl is going to be in Philadelphia. So I found that whole thing interesting. It's almost like the venue and the team is the same. So the Phillies got one in Arizona. They got there, at least, in Arizona. I'm wondering if now the Super Bowl being in Philadelphia, if the Diamondbacks, since they're Arizona, if they advance. But it is pretty interesting, I thought, especially because they're playing the Phillies. And the Eagles, they played the Niners, of course, but they got Purdy from Arizona. There's a lot of connections, but it is something that I thought was worth exploring. Now, if the Phillies get back there, I think they win for sure. And honestly, I like any team. I think whoever wins is going to be from the NL. I've been way off with my predictions up till now, so I haven't really gone out of my way to make baseball predictions because it's just not a lot of narratives. But I found that interesting. But yeah, it's again the city thing, the cross sports thing is kind of the reason I do like Clay. I thought it was interesting he was on the show, and especially with Draymond being out, I just don't see why people wouldn't be taking the Suns pretty heavily with their new stacked roster. So I'm excited actually. Like I said, this is going to be probably almost as good as wrestling because with the way Dion's been doing things and with the way the NFL's been getting just ridiculously blatantly scripted where everybody can see it, they're even joking about it. I don't see why they wouldn't have the NBA have to also keep people engaged and keep these games entertaining. I noticed the over-unders are moving. Soon they're going to be at 250, it seems like. They're in the mid-230s, which a couple were last year. But even for the Nuggets-Lakers, who traditionally they're set in the low 200s, I think it was 220-something. So I found that odd. And the Warriors-Suns over keeps going up. It'll probably go over. I think it's going to be a crazy scoring game. And they're probably going to just point out how neither of them has defense, but specifically the Suns. So I would take the over in the Suns game I think it's at 234 right now. It's not going to be an official play, but if you're really looking for one, I would say it's probably going to go over that spread. So yeah, I don't think there's anything too crazy because the season's just starting. But again, Clay being on the show and the Niners losing, they love to have one team from a city win and the other team lose. The Eagles just won and the Phillies lost the next night. It happens really, really often. I've noticed it happens more often than it should. And it happens in the same sport. So a lot of times when the Lakers win, the Clippers will lose, and vice versa. So yeah, I think we're going to have a good NBA season. College basketball was actually our best metric last year. We hit that at a ridiculous rate, at like 65, 70%, something like that. And it was just because it's more boring, but we just use metrics that I've gone into that you guys probably know about. So obviously with the NBA season, you have to wait X amount of games because there's 82 games. So there were teams last year. Actually, the Lakers were one of them that started off really bad against the spread. We waited till the optimal time. The Lakers alone probably made us 20 units last year because we got them so often because they went on a cover spree after they missed a bunch of covers. So I'll be looking at the teams that do cover, the teams that don't. I also have a pretty cool playoff simulator that, well, it's not my simulator, but I used it. And I have all of the teams that I think are going to make the playoffs, their playoff narratives, and teams that I think they're obviously getting behind to push into the playoffs as other teams fall out of grace. Teams that really are in the rebuilding mode, or you can just tell they don't have the marketability that they once did. So I like the feature because you can match up the playoffs, everything. So I went into that preseason, and there was a couple teams I looked at, and I think just based off of their stars, based off of the way they are being presented, they're definitely going to get a push akin to Oklahoma City this year. Now, Oklahoma City didn't do much, but I think they at least made the play-in. Yeah, they made the play-in, and now they got Chet back. So looking out for teams like that, and honestly, they're making it where every one of these teams looks like they have a claim that they could make a run, maybe outside of like 3 or 4 in each conference. They've done a great job with that, so it'll be a fun season. But yeah, I do think the Nuggets, again, the banner, the at-home narrative, and the fact that you got the Malone versus LeBron saga, I think it makes sense at home. They'll probably take their respective games. Nothing suspicious about the line. It's about where it was in the playoffs. If it was in LA, it would probably be a -2 for the Nuggets, maybe even. But that's what they did in the playoffs. It was about a 5 to 7 point swing, and I think a little more people will be on the Lakers money line. When you have 2 games and only one of them you can get plus value on, a lot of times someone's going, just the average Joe and even bettors that look for value, they're going to go for the one, okay, the Lakers are the one that gives us plus odds. There's only 2 games. So I do think that as far as the money line, I have no doubt there'll be more money on the Lakers. The spread, 5 is a good bit delay if you think it's going to be a close game. So that might even be on the Lakers. So I'm liking the Nuggets. And again, for narrative purposes, to show, okay, a well-fined. Now, they do have, again, Dre's out, but he was kind of part of the problem. So, a fine oiled machine is going to beat a bunch of stars. I still think the Suns are going to wind up going on crazy runs. I just think to open the season, we might see a couple of, quote, miscues, just based off of how they've been presented. So, yeah, like I said, I'll be having a way more in-depth breakdown of who I think is going to win each division. We did really good last year. 9 of our 10 playoff teams from the East made it. Play-in teams. We did the play-ins. The Wizards were the only ones. I had the Wizards in there ahead of the Raptors. I thought they were moving on with the Raptors. And on the West side, we got 8 of them. I did have Dallas in there. I actually did change it pretty early on, but not early enough. Our preseason pick still had Dallas in there. And I didn't have Sacramento in there. But not bad. We went, 8 for 10 and 9 for 10. I think they do a pretty obvious job, since there's only 5 teams from each side that don't make it, of kind of letting us know who's going to make these play-in tournaments. The in-season tournament's new to me. I think it's stupid, honestly, especially if they're trying to act like it's real. I don't know why you have a bunch of side tournaments. It just, in my opinion, takes away from the actual championship. So, either this in-season tournament's going to prioritize and be more important, or it's just going to be a worthless house show like WWE does in Saudi Arabia, because there's no reason for it, in my opinion. The whole reason you're playing the game is a tournament to win what's supposed to be the most prestigious prize in sports. And of course, they just treat it like the winner's getting a case of Coke. So it's just interesting, in my opinion, with this in-season tournament, which they'll probably be more competitive in than the actual season games, I have a feeling. It's like when you watch the Olympics or you watch the Euro League or, Germany just won, whatever that was, the FIBA World Cup. All those, they actually seem to take it with more seriousness than these games. I expect some theatrics. It's going to be very comical, in my opinion. And first game of the season, so I would advise listen to what the announcers say, see if you hear the word script, see if they're planting seeds early. Before it's their first game watching, supposedly. So if it's 5 minutes in and they're talking about how the Suns are having problems on the interior, then it might be immediately letting us know, okay, this is what's going to be happening with this team this year. And then, of course, all the little symbols and such. But yeah, I think there's not many other narratives that I see. I think these two will still wind up meeting up in the playoffs. You had Clay doing the whole 4 rings thing to Booker, now Paul's on the Warriors. It just seems like too good of a matchup not to have. But I do think round 1 is going to go to Golden State here at home. And again, that's going to be a leg 2 if the Nuggets don't cover their 5. If the Nuggets do cover, then we're just going to start a new sequence and play the Warriors to win also as a leg 1. Just to clarify that for anyone. So it's not going to be a leg 2 if we hit our leg 1, which is, again, the Nuggets. But if we don't, it will be a leg 2. And had the games been reversed, if it had been Lakers playing second, then we would be doing the opposite, obviously, because I like them both. So it just the first game is going to be our leg 1, and I'm picking them both because I know there's a good chance we split, and if we do, then of course that's why I like utilizing this system, because with both home teams, I don't think we're going to have two, even though they're minor upsets, though the one is at least. The other one's a pretty considerable upset. I don't think we're going to have 2 away upsets at home, or 2 away upsets, where the away team wins against the 2 teams that they're pitching are the absolute best teams in the league at home. And right now, that's all the Warriors really have to stand on, is the fact that they are so good at home. I don't think people are going to buy them as competitive, and you could say maybe that's what Vegas wants. I don't think they're doing anything with the Warriors this year, except having them put over some other teams. But I still think, again, they'll have a good home record, and the Suns might get off to a little bit of a sloppy start and then they'll start rattling off like 7-8 wins in a row. I do think they'll be a streaky team. Mostly, I think their streaks are going to be winning streaks, but I could see them being a team that very inconsistent just throughout the year. Again, it's like if it's real or fake, if you look at the Suns, I think you'd come to that assessment just because there's no way a group of guys, you've never had a collection of superstars where they literally are all the guy, essentially. Like, Booker's the guy, Durant's the guy, Beal was always the guy. I guess with Wall there, he was kind of guy number 2. But it's a very interesting dynamic. So I do think the Suns, they're not going to be treated as like when the Lakers got together and couldn't do anything, or when the Nets got all their guys and couldn't do anything. I actually think the Suns are going to be a threat just in game 1, especially after seeing Clay all smiles with Eli and Peyton at their games. They were saying how they're all winners. I like the Warriors to win. So yeah, I like the Lakers. Like I said, I like the Nuggets too. I do like I'm glad they're playing second, because I do like the Warriors a little bit more. So should the Nuggets not cover, then we got the leg 2 for 2 units on Golden State. So I think we do well this season. Obviously, just 2 games, but then we're going to have a slew of them coming up, and we'll be covering most of them. I'm going to pick my spots early in the season, but we'll play as many as we can, obviously, and there's probably going to be a lot of suspicious lines. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.